this incredible creature grazing peacefully. That's the mighty American buffalo, once the very lifeblood of the Great Plains and the indigenous tribes who called this vast region home. It's hard to overstate just how central the buffalo was to every aspect of life for the Plains Indians. This hairy, hump-backed beast was so much more than just a walking food source. It was the cornerstone of a rich and complex culture that thrived for generations in symbiotic harmony with the great herds. But here's the thing. I bet when most folks think of Native Americans and buffalo, their mind jumps straight to just the practical stuff like food, clothing, shelter. And don't get me wrong, the buffalo was an absolute master at multitasking in that department. But there's a deeper, more fascinating story here. The story of how the buffalo shaped Plains Indian identity at a profound spiritual level, and how that sacred bond is being revived today in the face of near-total destruction. Let's start with the basics. The Plains tribes were nomadic hunter-gatherers whose lives revolved around following the massive buffalo herds across the grasslands. And who could blame them? A single buffalo could provide a staggering amount of resources. We're talking enough meat to feed a small village, a hide that could be transformed into everything from cozy moccasins to a weatherproof tipi, bones for tools and weapons. Even the dried dung made excellent fuel. It's like if your local supermarket, hardware store, and IKEA all merged into one gigantic, shaggy package. But Plains tribes didn't just see the buffalo as a big ol' one-stop shop. Hunting these majestic beasts was a sacred act, surrounded by ceremonies, taboos, and a deep reverence for the buffalo's spirit. A successful hunt began with days of fasting, prayer, and rituals to honor the buffalo's sacrifice. The actual kill required immense skill, courage, and cooperation among hunters. After all, when your prey can weigh up to a ton and outrun a horse, you better have a foolproof battle strategy. But even in triumph, buffalo were treated with the utmost respect. Every part of the animal was used and nothing went to waste, a way to honor its sacred gift. Speaking of gifts, can we talk about the amazing things Plains people created with all that buffalo goodness? The hides alone were a craft marvel. Brain-tanned to buttery softness, adorned with intricate quill work or painted with vivid symbols cut and sewn to create some of the coziest cold-weather couture on the planet. Who needs Gore-Tex when you've got buffalo? They transformed rawhide into lightweight, durable containers that put Tupperware to shame. Even buffalo bones and sinew found new life as tools and weapons perfectly suited to nomadic needs. The level of artistry and ingenuity was mind-blowing. But it wasn't just about physical sustenance and sweet tailoring skills. The buffalo held a profoundly sacred place in Plains spirituality. These massive creatures were seen as relatives, as ancient beings who emerged from the earth each spring to restore balance and abundance to the land. In many traditions, buffalo were the first four-leggeds created, the closest to the Creator, here to teach humans how to live in reciprocity with nature. This spiritual bond was reinforced through a dizzying array of ceremonies and rituals. The sun dance, the most sacred of Plains ceremonies, featured a buffalo skull at its center, representing the great mystery and the cycle of life. Dancers endured grueling fasts and even pierced their flesh with buffalo bone pegs in emulation of the animal's life-giving sacrifice. In the buffalo calling ceremonies, medicine men donned buffalo headdresses and called out in the animal's own language, their voices merging with bull roarers to lure the herds closer. Even in death, the buffalo remained a potent spiritual conduit. Its skull was placed in a position of honor on family altars, adorned with sage and prayer offerings. To sleep on a buffalo robe or wear a buffalo hide shield in battle was to wrap oneself in the animal's sacred power and protection. In the smoke-filled sweat lodges, water was poured over red-hot buffalo stones, carrying prayers up to the ancestors on the rising steam. This tapestry of ritual and reverence, woven over thousands of years, speaks to the intimate kinship Plains tribes had with the buffalo. It was a relationship of mutual sustenance. The buffalo gave its life to the people, and the people gave their love, respect, and prayers to the buffalo in an unending cycle. There was a belief that as long as these sacred pacts were upheld, the buffalo would always provide in this world and the next. Which makes what happened in the late 1800s all the more heart-wrenching. In just a few decades, the once thundering herds of up to 60 million buffalo were massacred to near extinction by ruthless overhunting. trainloads of sport hunters shot them by the thousands, leaving rotting carcasses stripped of their hides to litter the prairies. Some U.S. officials even promoted the slaughter as a way to weaken Plains tribes and force them off their ancestral lands. Can you imagine the devastation? To watch your relative, your sacred teacher, your source of life, mercilessly gunned down until the vast herds were reduced to a few straggling survivors. It wasn't just the Plains economy that collapsed, but an entire culture and spiritual worldview. With no more buffalo to follow, no more hides to shelter under, no more ceremonies to perform, Plains tribes faced cultural annihilation. But here's where the story takes an inspiring turn. In recent decades, Plains tribes have mounted a heroic effort to bring buffalo back to their lands and their ways of life. From a low of just a few hundred animals, there are now over 350,000 buffalo roaming tribal lands across the West. And with them, a renaissance of indigenous knowledge, values, and pride. Imagine the triumph of a new generation of native youth learning the ancestral skills of tanning hides and packing pemmican, of singing the ancient buffalo songs and dancing in the sacred regalia. Picture elders passing on the old stories, ecological wisdom, and spiritual teachings to eager young ears, ensuring that the buffalo ways live on. Bit by bit, the buffalo are reclaiming their place as a keystone of Plains culture and ecology. Each new buffalo calf born is a cause for celebration, a sign that the ancient covenant between species is being restored. And as the herds grow, so too does the healing power of cultural revival. Sun dances and buffalo calling ceremonies are being rekindled, their drums and rattles resounding across the grasslands once more. The Plains buffalo story exemplifies nature's and the human spirit's resilience, proving that despite immense loss, ancient bonds, ecosystems, and cultures can be restored. The buffalo's presence offers hope for Plains people to reconnect with their roots and find their place in the sacred hoop of life. When you see a buffalo, reflect on the rich tapestry of culture, spirit, and story surrounding these humble creatures. Their story reminds us that we are all part of nature's web, and with respect, reciprocity, and love, even the most frayed connections can be mended. This shaggy, hump-backed ungulate teaches us about our own humanity and serves as a keystone species, upholding an entire worldview. May we learn to walk in beauty and balance alongside our four-legged brothers, finding our place in the great circle of life. We are all part of the same herd, dance, and sacred story, the awe-inspiring Buffalo Connection. Like and subscribe to archeotrek channel for more mind-blowing insights.